that rolling too. What is up, everyone? Hope you're all doing well. We are together, as you can see.
I know this is weird. I can't
Super exciting. I think this
while
is
you're
second.
doing the logistics, I can't just
Is
do
this
other things.
second-
It feels weird. I don't
Second
know.
one we've done together live.
I don't know.
Which
Also feels weird to look at you from an angle, like look at you sideways. I have to like not used to it. This is fun though. Yeah, it's event day. We got 60 plus people coming out to Detroit. Dinner tonight, mastermind tomorrow, all day Saturday.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
excited.
It's gonna be a great time. All right, let's dive in. Hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to the Anti-Hustler Weekly Show. Obviously, we are set in a different spot today. We're actually in Brian's basement, in his home. We got our whole team. The entire POD team is out here in Detroit with us. We got the community. I think like probably 75% of the community coming out to Detroit for our 2-day event. We're going to do a VIP dinner tonight and then 2 days, Friday and Saturday tomorrow. But that's not going to stop us from doing the Anti-Hustler Show for you every week. Every week we are here live, 3 p.m. Eastern in our Facebook group. You can catch out all the replays in the Facebook group and our replay vault. If you need them at any time, just follow us in our group or reach out to us via DM. We'll be more than happy to share it with you. Today, we're going to be talking about breaking through your revenue ceilings, getting to the place beyond $10,000 a month. If you are not a beginner, this is not really for you, and that's totally okay. We have a lot of other shows where we've been breaking down a lot more advanced tactics and techniques, but obviously we understand with 7,000 people in our Facebook group, there's going to be a large amount of people that have not yet break past the $10,000 a month rate. And so we want to be doing this training specifically for you. That said, if you are already past $25, $50, or $75,000 a month and want to figure out how to get to 100, 150 with better profit margins, more consistency and predictability, and ultimately feel that you don't have to run a business that's a job, but run a business that's actually a business, right? An opportunity that doesn't rely all on you, then reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to support you. But today is more so for the beginner agencies or people that are struggling getting past that $10,000 a month mark. Brian, why do most people get stuck at the 10K a month mark?
Yeah, I love this topic. And again, like we have tried in the past to only focus in on topics for a more advanced agency owner, but we want to serve every person in this community. So this is so important. And I think I can best illustrate it by just talking about my agency and what got me stuck when I was doing it. And I think the challenge was, and without spoiling anything that we're going to cover at the event this week, is people put fulfillment after sales when, in my opinion, fulfillment needs to come before sales. And what does that mean? How can you have fulfillment before you've actually sold a client? You need to be crystal clear on the thing you are selling before you go sell it. Because I think the biggest mistake people make towards the beginning of their journey is they go talk to someone who they got referred to or someone they know in their community, whatever. And now they're trying to be a full service agency. They're just going to do whatever this person thinks that they need. Cool. I'll build your website. I'll do social media. I'll try to figure out how to run ads. I will do email marketing. And you're doing all of these things. And it's instead of creating a business where you have a specific function you fill and you sell that one thing to clients, you're now taking orders and you have a whole bunch of basically, I call them mini bosses, where now instead of having just one boss, you have like 5, maybe if you can handle that many mini bosses that you're doing all this random work for, different price points, different offers, different services. And I've been there. I know, Alex, you've been there when you were starting your agency. This is where I honestly see most people get stuck under 10K. And now, maybe let's say you hit that 10K mark. You have 5 clients paying you $2,000 a month each. Cool, great. But now you have no time because you're doing all the fulfillment. Right. So to me, it's like figure out who you want to serve and what you want to sell and put that in place before you go try and sell it. Now, I'm going to add to this really quickly too. Sure. What I would encourage you to do instead of trying to learn how to do fulfillment and learn how to do the service, this was my big mistake too, is I thought I needed to learn how to be, when we were selling iPhone apps. That's right. I thought I needed to learn how to code, right? What I really needed was to get good at sales and getting opportunities. I didn't need to know how to run Facebook ads. I didn't need to know how to run, build websites, but I focused so much time and energy doing that. It got me further away from the goal, deeper in the fulfillment hole of doing the work. That's right. Versus going and getting clients, having a partner in place. When I say a partner, fulfillment partner, a white label, or someone in the community who you can pay a part of what your client pays you to do the work. And this is frankly, like I would say, what most beginners get stuck
100%.
up
on. The most common problem is that when someone finds this as a biz opportunity, right? Like a teenager, young adult, or even someone that is considering a career path and a career change, the mindset around most beginner entrepreneurs is I have to kind of learn everything in order to effectively sell and then effectively deliver the product that I promised. And that's where most people really get stuck. And that's why most people can't get past that 10K mark until they learn the hard lesson of, oh man, I'm stuck when I have 5 clients doing all the work every single day and I'm basically owned by these people. It's because we kind of clutch our pearls a little bit when it comes to profitability. So we make a sale for $2,000, which is a huge deal when you're just starting, and all respect to you if you're able to do that. It's a big deal.
I remember
Absolutely.
my first $2,000 check, dude. I have a picture of it still because I was like,
Huge deal.
I made this money. Like, what?
And then
But
when you make that,
it.
you're like, it's mine. I want all of it. And the problem is when you want all of it, the opportunity cost of putting the time in to fulfill the service is immense, right? And that's why we see a lot of people in the agency space now trying out SaaS, because SaaS has a much lower barrier of entry, significantly less fulfillment work. But even with that, what ends up happening with SaaS people is they overcomplicate their workflows. They try to do tech support when they don't really know what the hell they're talking about. And so we end up still falling into the same trap. So the first thing to know is Brian and I are not saying in any sanctimonious way that you should not be doing fulfillment. That is so stupid. How could you? We're saying we know that's what you're doing. We know it because we did it. We've seen so many biz op entrepreneurs, people coming into the digital marketing or SaaS space, trying this out. The easiest solution for you moving forward is finding a white label fulfillment partner that has proven results that you feel you can ethically and confidently sell, so you make profitability on each deal, because profitability is not just the money that you're making, it's the time that you're saving. So for example, if you sell a $2,000 product and you could sell that product for $2,000 but deliver it for $1,000, you're profiting $1,000, and now you have time freedom to go get another $2,000 client. And so when we see people saying that they're stuck at 10,000, that's why they're thinking, oh, well, isn't this good? Like I'm making $9,500 a month because I have such small, expenses. But when you get to a place where you're making $40,000 or $50,000 a month in revenue and profiting $25,000 a month, that's really where you're going to get to the next stage. So that's just something to really strongly consider here for most people. The other thing we want to talk about was Frankenstein Agency, which I want to kick over to you and kind of explain what that means.
Yeah, and some of you maybe probably are in this place already that we're describing, where you already have this issue, and we call it a Frankenstein agency, a bunch of different clients, different price points, different offers. It's challenging, and the answer is different for every person because it depends on how much you need the money, right? If you need that money to survive, it doesn't make practical sense to fire clients to free up time. You need to be keeping that money. So what we recommend is you look for the most obvious low-hanging fruit of how you're fulfilling your offer in terms of what could I delegate for the cheapest amount. And maybe that means you're going to go hire a VA in the Philippines for $5 an hour. So it's not going to break the bank, but now you're buying back your time. You're slowly buying your time back with the money you do have to take off tasks from your plate. And then once you have a little bit of freed up time, once you have that margin, go sell a client in the format that we're talking, where cool, I have a fulfillment partner in place, I'm going to sell them. Now this new money, you can now decide, do I want to continue handing off parts of my Frankenstein agency to other people, and or do I want to just fire those clients respectfully and move on entirely because I've replaced that revenue with other money.
This is what we call addition by subtraction. A lot of people, again, clutching pearls related to money. Like when you're new to the business space in terms of generating revenue, a lot of times that you make a sale, there's this weird kind of psychology related to it. You're like, oh my God, so excited, incredible. And then right after, you're like, when's the next one going to happen? Am I going to retain them? Will I ever make money ever again? And it kind of just never stops. And so what ends up happening is you don't delegate, or you're afraid of like losing the deal. So you overwork it. And then what you end up having is an agency with multiple different offers, too many different products, and it's just very confusing to figure out what to do next. That's the Frankenstein agency model, right? So one other quick note on this related to the Frankenstein side of things, we did a training, I think it was about a month ago in the replay vault. If you want to ask us for it, just drop Eric in the chat and we'll send it to you. But Eric Haskin, one of our clients, POD, shout out to Eric, POD Hall of Famer. He'll be here in Detroit. He runs an $100K a month agency in the attorney space. But when he started working with us, he was around like $20,000 a month from a business he's been running for about 10 years. That's just completely Frankenstein, like doing SEO products, content marketing, social media marketing and posting, web design, web hosting. This is super common, especially for people that were in the space like pre 2010, basically,
Yeah.
like before the proliferation of ads on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. Like there was a lot of traditional digital marketing related to SEO and Google and content marketing, right? And so a lot of people have a hard time letting that go. And what Eric was talking about on that training, which was so valuable, was he never let the money go because he didn't want to give up $20,000 that he had, or whatever the profit was, say, $12,000 of profit. He didn't want to just give that up. Understandably so, because he's got a lot of responsibility. He's got a wife, he's got children. It's not like he's a 20-something-year-old with no responsibilities and can risk everything. Risk management is part of this process, right? And we understand a beginner just doesn't mean that it's an 18-year-old finishing college. A beginner could be a 40-year-old who just left a CPA firm for the last decade plus. Like that's totally possible. And so the framework that Eric was talking about was hiring someone and teaching them how to run the Frankenstein company so that he can then free up his time. So yes, the profitability went from like 12K to probably like 7,000, which is not great, but because of putting that time in, now his profitability for himself is able to be surpassing $40,000 or $50,000 a month because he was able to hand it off. And that is one of the key elements that matters. There was a question by Carl.
Yeah, I saw it. I'm going to answer that in a second. I think as I'm really thinking about this, though, where this actually happens, where the Dr. Frankenstein's monster is born, is not necessarily on the front end where you sell an agreement, right? Because a lot of times it comes to just, oh, cool, we'll do social media or do a website, cool, you sell that. But this idea of scope creep, right? And what scope creep is basically when you start to do additional work outside of what the initial agreement is. And I use this phrase all the time, overcompensating versus over-delivering. I'm always going to be an advocate of over-deliver for your clients, give them more than what they're paying for in value. But what we instead tend to do is we overcompensate. And what that means is we get this $2,000 SEO deal, and then we're so afraid to lose it that we start to do other things for the client. And it starts to just be this gradual process, like where it's quicksand, and before you know it, you're in above your neck and you're sinking because you agreed to take on all this little stuff for the client because you didn't really have in writing a clear agreement of what the promises and deliverables were to begin with. And you're so afraid to lose the deal, it just gets added on, and now you are bogged down. So you have to be really cautious with these initial clients. And I'd also argue too, like what's so interesting about beginners is they tend to also attract beginners. So I'd work with a lot of air quotes startups when I was a beginner. And don't work with anyone who doesn't already know how to make money with their current offer, because they're going to be looking at you as to why is their business broken.
Can I bring
they have a terrible product market fit, likely they need to have this validated already before you start selling it, or it makes your job 10 times harder. And this exact problem gets exacerbated, which is they expect everything from you, they're asking everything from you, and it doesn't work, they're blaming 100%. You, and you feel obligated.
It's really important at the beginning of your business to remember that just because someone's paying you $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 or more does not mean they own you. It does not mean that. You just have to have a very clear parameters of what is a part of your offer and what is not. Scope creep is very common, especially for beginners, because they feel a requirement. They feel bad that they're getting paid this amount and there's a request to add something and you have to add it. One really important consideration, especially for people sub $10,000 per month consistently, or if you're hovering at that number pretty consistently, please make sure you don't do any work that's on a pay for performance model unless it's clearly proven that you're getting paid. Brian and I have experienced innumerable people we've worked with or spoken to at events that have explained, like, I got in this deal with this life insurance guy and he said that everything I got, he would get it 20%, and I worked with him for 6 months and I never made a cent. Please don't fall into that trap. Please, please, please avoid that. People might not be necessarily malicious on purpose, but it's very, very common, unfortunately, in the marketing space. Just be careful of that.
Cool. So I'm going to answer some of these questions. Carlos, you dropped in, what would you recommend starting with in terms of packages for beginners?
For sure.
It really depends on what you're selling, right? So to me, if you're selling, the answer is you have to sell what's going to be best for the client. So if you're selling SEO, as an example, you should ideally be looking at 6 to 12 month long agreements, because that minimum amount of time is going to get the client the result they need, right? If you're selling a 3-month agreement to SEO and they're expecting to get results in 3 months and they're not, you're both going to be disappointed. So to me, it's like you have to understand what you're selling and how much time is it going to take to get the results. That's number one. Number two, if you're a beginner, you're going to have to be a little bit, especially if you don't have the experience to lean on, even if you have a white label partner, you still may have to get a little bit creative with your initial agreements. And what I mean by that is, I don't love the idea of only a free trial with no
no.
expectations on the end result,
Fuck
right?
no.
So what we coach instead is this format of a love it or leave it offer. So you approach someone with this idea of, hey, if I could bring you customers on a commission only basis, be careful the industry you're doing this in. You could do a pay per lead, pay per appointment model as well. Would you be open to that to get and earn this phone call, right? On the phone call, present your offer. And instead of charging them anything the first 2 months, like a retainer format, what you do is charge a setup fee, right? And in a perfect world, that setup fee is going to cover at least your time and or your white label partner's time. And then in those 2 months, you can do a commission only pay per lead, pay per result model. So you get a little extra. But the point is
skin in the game.
You earn the client, and by month 3, and this expectation is set on the sales call, you move them to the retainer model.
Yeah.
So let's play this out with the $2,000 offer again. Let's say you're using IPPC, it costs you $500 a month. You've got some time and patience. You really want to build up your agency. So what I would be doing is going to someone and charging them $1,000 setup fee for their first 2 months. 500 and 500 goes to Invisible PPC to get the work done. If we get some great results immediately, cool, I get a little extra gravy, but you earn the business, right? Now in month 3, move them to the $2,000 a month retainer model because you prove the concept of what you do for them. And now you can pocket $1,500, pay the $500 to your white label partner. So that is how you kind of have to be flexible in the beginning. And what we do in POD is, as a coaching program, because people need at least 6 months to get results, is 6-month minimum commitment.
That's right.
So you'll have to ask yourself, what is going to get the client the actual result? What is best for them? And then base it around that.
For a beginner, we always would recommend 90-day commitments minimally. It's very hard to generate any result in marketing in sub 30 days. There are some like reactivation stuff in GHL that you could potentially get it. The bigger point though, particularly for Carlos's question, but to anyone that is considering this question, like how do I package the deal? How long should the offer be? What should the pricing be? One of the main considerations you need to have is, what is the success KPI? It's absolutely critical that you agree upon the success of the campaign with your client. The worst example I had of this was when I was like, I think I was 19 or 20. I had ventured out of my PI agency and I got a local gym. I just went into local gym. I told them I could run Facebook ads for them. I think I charged them $1,000 at that time, if I remember correctly, plus the ad spend, which I think was like $400.
Thank you for adding that. They always pay for ad spend too. You don't pay for that out of pocket.
Yeah, so like probably like $1,400 or so, and I was making $1,000. I was doing the fulfillment myself because I hadn't delegated it, which in retrospect is hilarious because I don't know anything about ads. But anyways, after a month of working with them, I didn't have them commit to any sort of long-term agreement. We had no contract. We had nothing of that nature. After a month, I went back into the office like locally, and I was so excited because I had generated them 100 leads. I'm like, oh my God, I absolutely crushed it. They're definitely going to continue. It's going to be great. Can't wait to go home to my wife and tell her about how wonderful this renewal meeting was. And it was the opposite of wonderful. It was terrible. I mean, I went in there and they were like, we're firing you. You're terrible. You gave us garbage leads, blah, blah. And anyone that's been in the space for some time has heard this experience before. And the lesson that you have to learn from this scenario that you don't have to learn yourself is just simply get clarity on what success is. I thought success was 100 leads for the gym. They wanted only members. And so because of that, there was a difference of what the success would be. And that's a really big problem for beginners. And that's why a lot of people get stuck at the 10K mark. And I want to just say one other quick note on this. Just to make sure that no one feels bad watching this training. You might have already turned it off if I said this multiple times. Brian and I have said beginner many, many times in this training related to someone that's been stuck at 10K. But the truth of the matter is there's actually a lot of people that are not beginners in terms of timeline. Like there's people that we see in the agency space or SaaS space that have been working in it more than a year or even more than 2 years sometimes. And they're really having a hard time breaking past $10,000 a month consistently. And so I just want to make sure that we reframe when we say beginner, it might sound like in a negative connotation or that we're like shaming you in any way, but it's not. It's just understanding the things that we're bringing up here, that you're probably clutching pearls a little bit on fulfillment, not delegating it, and then probably offering too many things to too many people, which is really making it impossible to do it. So we can wrap up this.
This is good. This is what I want. Piece of beginner advice.
This is what I want to do.
I think let me just really quickly on this. There's this saying that it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. I think a lot of people don't give their business enough time
For
because
sure.
they try and go all in on it too soon instead of adopting this idea called overlapping, which is where if you need money to survive right now, pay for your living expenses, your family, whatever, like you may need to overlap the business with a job, because some people like, okay, I'm going to quit my job, go all in on the agency, and the agency doesn't get to the place where it's replacing their income in a quick enough time frame, and they feel like they have to give up on it or go back.
Sure.
Like you have to have the income you need at least to a point right now, and then supplement that once you replace that with money you're making from your agency, then you can go in on that. But like if you are trying to like struggle like just on the agency right now, like really, I would put on your big boy pants, big girl pants, and just get a job. There's no shame in that to get to a point. I was delivering pizzas, tour guide, full-time in college while I was trying to get my agency off the ground. I wasn't sure if my agency was going to be the thing that actually worked out. And fortunately it was. So then I got to go all in on that and quit my jobs and leave school.
That's right. One of the main things we talk about in POD is having intentionality on what the goal is. If you're running a race that has no finish line, then you're just going to, of course, burn out. You can't possibly win. And what we see a lot of people do, again, I'm going to use that term beginners, but I don't think it's just beginners. I think it's just entrepreneurs in general that work without intentionality. They allow some sort of person that they follow. I really hope that would not be Brian or I, but to not put us in this category, like you look at someone like Hormozy or Gary Vaynerchuk or Grant Cardone or Tony Robbins, and you're like, only their version of success is the thing I'm looking for. And you never even take any time to identify like what success means to you, how much money you need to make, how you're going to do that. There's no like pragmatic approach to execution, right? It's just like, I'm just going to do it. If you think a little bit more like a chemistry experiment, like a scientific experiment, the scientific method of like, hey, I'm going to define exactly what I want to be happy and to have the money I want in my life. I'm going to design a plan that I believe will work based on specific actions that will get me to a milestone. And then the next specific actions that get me to the next milestone and thus hitting my goal. And then finally actually doing the work, right? The thing is, most people just skip those first two things. They skip defining, they skip designing, and they just start doing things, right? So whether you're a college student just doing things, or much more dangerous, you are, responsible for children, you're, more than a young adult, you're probably 25 to 45 years old, and you're not being responsible because you're just like, oh, well, the planning time is time that I could be prospecting. It's like, the more that you do the planning, the better you will be at avoiding Frankenstein, the better you will be at setting up a business that actually will have success versus something that's just has no chance of succeeding because you didn't plan anything in the first place. And that's really how you break through to the 10K plus. Like, you want us to tell you some sort of magic pill. The magic pill is being intentional, like identifying the best offer for the best market, for your lowest hanging fruit, for
that's
fulfillment
different
partner.
for everyone, by the way.
100%. Every single person.
Depends
every
on your
single person.
and who you're connected to.
We have literally done so many shows. I don't know what number show this is, but 30 plus.
What's the
easily.
best niche?
We've done so many shows about different prospecting methodologies, different sales methods, different things. Like, there's so many shiny objects, but the reality is all they have to do is find a problem in a market that you care about and then provide them a solution to that at a reasonable price that you create finances from and can delegate fulfillment. Don't overcomplicate that, right? And don't just accept every single person's dollar. When you accept every single person's dollar, that's how you get stuck in freelance mode forever. That's how you stay on Upwork forever. And again, there's a lot of people that have made a lot of money just staying on Upwork, but there's no business in that. That's just a freelance job. And again, there's no shame in that. If that's what you want to do, we respect that. But that's not what Brian and I are talking about. Because at some point, you're going to wake up bald like me, 35 years old, wondering, where the fuck is all the time gone? I'm just like hustling for the next dollar all the time, waiting for someone on Upwork or a referral to come to me instead of developing a real business. And that is the problem.
Cool.
Hopefully that helps.
Yeah. All right, fam. See you on the next one.
Hope everyone has an awesome rest of your day. If you want to join us, we will be here every single Thursday at 3:00 Eastern. Normally there's 2 Zooms. Brian and I together. Look, we're here. It's real life. Look, I'm touching him.
Wow.
Real. Happens. Familia, thank you. Hope y'all have a good one. I don't think I'll look good bald. Yeah, Destiny. No, don't do it. Don't go bald. All right, Famil. Peace.
Adios.
Have a good one.